Welcome to the Germinate podcast, where agriculture, business, and innovation take root and thrive. I'm Joe Sampson, and with nearly 2 decades of experience in agricultural equipment and scaling businesses, I'm here to bring you actionable insights, inspiring stories, and strategic advice. Whether you're an industry veteran or just starting out, this podcast is your guide to cultivating ideas, expanding your knowledge, and growing your venture. So let's get started and germinate your path to success. This episode is brought to you by Haven Steel, one of the newest supporters we have here on the Germinate podcast, and we couldn't be more grateful to have them on board. They are specialty heat treaters who've mastered the art of steel form products built to last longer and deliver the kind of durability manufacturers depend on. They support businesses throughout the globe with American-made reliability, but really here's what I appreciate the most about Haven. They're genuinely great people first. Owner Ken Brown and his team carry a purpose and a drive that's rare in today's business world. They don't just work hard on their 2 plants in Haven, Kansas and McKinsey, Tennessee. They care. They put their customers first, they show up when it matters, and they stand behind every product they manufacture. So if you manufacture agricultural equipment or distribute heat-treated components, Haven Steel is the only name you need to call. And I'll say this, Haven Steel is up to something special. They are investing, expanding, and stepping into a new chapter that's going to get this industry's attention. So stay tuned, everyone. Keep your eye on Haven Steel and learn more at havensteel.com, HAVENSTEEL.com. All right, folks, welcome back to the Germinate podcast. This is, I guess, episode 2 of 2026. So we're firing them off. Appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. Thank a few sponsors coming out of the gate. GBGI, GBGIUSA.com out of Chardon, Ohio. Pete Casamento, Mark Adams, Jamie Casamento, all the folks in Chardon. Appreciate those guys sponsoring the show and helping us out as we continue on into 2026. This thing's just been a crazy ride for us. So can't do it without the support of our sponsors. We do have some announcements coming up. We're going to have some new ones coming up on board as well for 2026, but too early to tell that. If you do want to sponsor, go to embosales.com, embosales.com. You can check out the Germinate podcast, and we can talk. So one more sponsor shout out, Magrotech out of Dublin, Ireland, MAGROWTEC. Appreciate those guys too for their support and relationship and partnership. Really doing some cool and exciting things in the spray optimization world in agriculture, something that all of you should be thinking about moving forward, not just with spraying, but with everything. And we're going to talk about that today with Matt Henley. He's going to kind of unpack how to be efficient in your manufacturing, but trying to maximize your efficiencies should be the theme of 2026. And Magrotech is a company you can do that with on the spraying side of things. So thank you to those guys. Okay. There we go. The announcements are over, and now on to my guest, who I'm excited about. Matt Henley and I just met, about a month or so ago, but I knew, like, right when we had our first conversation that you guys are going to like this one because, like I just said, it's kind of all about efficiencies and preparation and planning. So, Matt, welcome aboard. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, happy to be here. Yeah.
So for those that don't know you, don't know your company, you're a member of the FEMA organization, but tell everybody that doesn't know what you guys do, who you are and what you do.
Right. Yeah. THG Automation builds robotic welding and cutting systems for the US, Canadian, Australian markets. We have some other fringe countries we sell and support, and some test programs, right? Some trials. We focus on the collaborative robotic side of things, not the industrial side. We have a lot of experience in the industrial side, but the collaborative side was a door to help customers with automation where they were really left out in the cold when it came to traditional automation, right? It's too complicated, long lead times, a lot of floor space, all the things that would make them a bad fit for the automation. We found those companies are typically now a good fit for the automation. So we focus on building high-end, very capable, universal robots-based robot systems with Fronius, IHT for cutting, Hypertherm for plasma cutting, and then IPG for the laser cutting or laser welding. So we keep expanding our product line, and our customers are eating it up. So as well as external axes and supporting competitor systems with functionality they don't offer.
I gotcha. You, it's a buzzword a lot of people are talking about, and they have been for years, is automation. Okay, I wanna get into automation. I know I need to automate my factory or my plant or this operation or that operation, but what I love talking to you the first time is you're kinda saying, maybe slow the jets a little bit before, you just dive in. Some people just say, "I'm diving in, I'm gonna automate everything," right? And you're kinda saying, "Wait a minute here. Let's slow down. Let's make sure we're looking at the right things. Otherwise, we're not setting you up for success."
Yeah, that really is correct, and it's not slow down, automation's not a good fit, it's slow down, let's make a good decision about the starting point in that conversation,
Right, exactly.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of companies, they there's many ways to fail, and they'll run into those places from being partnered up with the wrong people, not having, full ownership of the concept and the willingness to make it work, going too complicated. There's so many different reasons why it doesn't work, and but we understand too, it's really tough to know who to trust.
Sure.
Either they, and even when we hire employees, we have to be careful because either that person makes us think they're better than what they really are, or they don't know how bad they are, right? It's one of the 2, right? They're either posers or they're just ignorant to their inabilities, right?
I
So
love that, yeah.
right, and I'm not saying, manufacturers are ignorant or posers, but they get the ignorance and posers that say, "Hey, I can do that," and then they trust them, and then they fail, and then now it's gonna be that much harder to do what they should have been able to do to start with. So, we we're really pretty blunt about, like, "Yeah, that's not gonna work," or, "Yeah, that's gonna work," but we can only offer them the information. They still have to take ownership of it and have faith that it's gonna work.
Yeah.
And, f and faith is not the faith in blind faith. Faith is we will do what it takes to get where we want to be, and it
Right.
goes back to our conversation before the podcast started is about planning, right?
Planning, yeah.
Fail to plan, plan to fail, right?
Yep. Yep.
So no decision is a decision. You want all the cliches in the world, right? It, if you say something, if you identify something, but you don't act upon that something, then you've acted that you're not going to do something about that, right? And so, and we have a great saying from one of our customers, 4-man shop, bought a robot. He goes, if you're thinking about buying robotic automation, buying a cobot to weld your parts, just sign the PO and do it. Don't overthink it, right? If it's coming up in your mind enough that you're like, "Hey, we keep saying we need to do this," right? That's that little person in your head saying you should do this, so you might as well just act on it
Just
and
take the leap. Yep,
just
do it.
take the leap, right? But take the leap with the right people. So,
Yeah. No, I love that. Let's unpack the word poser, man. I haven't heard poser forever, but you brought up poser, we used to talk to we'd tell each other they were posers back in middle school days, and I'm old. I'm an old guy, but, uh, you brought up trust, and I think that's super important, and I think it's overlooked now in the world of AI and all these things. It's kind of like, "No, no, no, that's a little blind faithy stuff." Unpack your background a little bit and how you got to where you're at so people can understand, like, "Wait a minute here, man. When I'm working with Matt, I know I'm getting the real deal here because I love your story." So you go ahead.
yeah, my story is a case study in ADD psychology, right? It is it's bright ideas, always trying to figure stuff out, always, minds over in 15 different places at once.
Mhm.
Um, so my background is self-learned in product design, process engineering, manufacturing processes, automation, welding. So traditional education's never been a place I've played in. But the experiences are where I thrive. And
Wait a minute, traditional education has never been a place you've played in, meaning it wasn't yeah, I
It's
got you.
yeah, so yeah. So, setting in a class and, call it whatever you want, right? But I've never thrived in a classroom
That
setting.
wasn't your cup of tea. Yeah. You were too busy thinking.
I learned from seeing stuff and how it works and understanding how it works. So,
Yeah.
taking that and translating that into the things that I've done for companies as an employee and the things I've done for companies as a contractor, those that's where I thrive, right? And diving in with both feet, learning it and being, motivated to be successful in whichever space I committed to. Um, and that's came through, starting out, always wanting to be independent, always wanting to be a company owner, to being a production welder for a while, learning that, and then moving on to working for a company where basically I knew how to draw on the boards but never touched a CAD system, and they hired me as a CAD designer. And so one day they threw me in front of the computer and said, "Hey, you're in the soup now. Let's see what you can do." And 3 days later, I got a print off of it because all I had to do is figure out how to do a tangent line to a circle, right? And
You're
that's
kidding me. Oh,
no.
wow.
So that was my introduction to AutoCAD, right? And then,
Just
but I always
throw you in, let you go. Yep.
then let me go, right? So that was their faith in me that I could learn it. And so, what's the chances? And I've always had, parents that, I've always grown up with technology.
Yeah.
So in the 80s, I was programming a color computer from Radio Shack. I went with dad to uh, computer club meetings as a kid a couple times, just exposed to, the technology piece and the concepts around how technology can be implemented. And so, there was a couple different paths I could have went in life. I could have went electronic software engineering. Probably been better off if I'd been a software engineer because I'd made more money. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's some money in that, I'd
oh yeah.
say. Yeah.
So I even had a job with a company in Arizona. Somebody I was working with, they said, "Hey, you have a job in Arizona if you want it with the software company." Don't know who the company was. Went to Arizona to hang out and said, "Nope, don't want to be here. It's too hot." 10 o'clock at
Yeah.
night, high humidity. It was during monsoon season, so that chased me off.
Brutal.
But
What year was that in? So what year are we talking?
97.
Okay, so we're in the '90s here. This was before all the computer saw that's like the start of it, man. That's like the height of it. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it still wasn't, you had these bubbles, right? But yeah, I wasn't into that close to the 2000.
Right, it wasn't the big tech thing, yeah, the
Yeah,
dot-com
where
boom.
web development really started taking off in the dot-com era. So, yeah, just working my way up through companies. My last job was started out as a CAD designer. I ended up being their IT administrator. Learned how to program their first robot they got in 2000, and then they had 7 robots when I left in 2008, running 90% of the product. Right, so we went from no robots to 7 robots running 90% of the standard product when I left, and we had an ERP system that was we were paperless by 2006.
Oh my
So,
gosh, man.
we built our own ERP system. Took us about 2.5 years to really get it ironed out to where it was working the way we needed it. A lot of mingling, so you gotta figure out how you work, you gotta figure out how the system was designed to work, and bring that together to
Yeah,
where
yeah.
so, no ERP system, so if we sidestepped into ERP systems, none of them are good out of the box.
Oh gosh, no. I've
And
never heard anybody say, like, "I love my ERP system" on day 1. Nobody says that.
we loved our ERP system, but we did a lot of reverse engineering and custom development on it. We did all that internally so we could move quick. It wasn't super expensive to do it, and I don't it wasn't too long ago that they actually got off of it. So, because it
So
did
they ran it for, like, 20 years.
oh, they ran it for a long time. I went back there 10 years later, did contract work, and they were still using it.
Wow.
So, so yeah, but a lot of companies will have those same stories. They'll custom make their own systems, and they may still be in DOS, and they just keep it running because it's too expensive to switch to something else. So that's a whole other
Oh, dude, that's a crazy other world, but
right.
you said you always wanted to kinda work on your own, and you knew that early on, like, job 1 or, out of high school, out of college? What
Gives you
was
the
the
latitude to make quick adjustments to
Yeah.
to things you want to do, right? So always had ideas, always had things I wanted to accomplish, and it's never changed, right? It's still there. I'm just 100% focused on THG Automation.
Yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, so you know, got into product development, was a equity partner on a electric bicycle for law enforcement project. So I was head designer for that. We developed the bike from scratch. Got pretty far, um, but for various reasons, that's not happening anymore. So was an equity partner in another company doing hydrogen generation. And I don't know what's going on with that now. It's just kind of there's a lot of personalities in these startups, so but those were all good experiences. And then somebody found used to do a lot of contract work with robotics and welding, and so I did that for like 12 years, maybe 14 years, and and so you got to see a lot of things,
Sure.
from small shops to automotive.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of things, and so that was something I was really good at. But it's a one man band thing. So if anybody's out there thinking, "Oh, I'm going to start a company that does contract robotics," consulting, it's like, yeah, well, you're going to hire people long enough for them to know they're going to want to make as much money as you are, and they think they can do better by themselves. So you end up being a one man band on that stuff, or your employees steer your customers. Uh, so, um, in the product development space, moving into 2020, we got a request to build a system,
Huh.
and that request, we said, well, they don't need anything complicated, but they needed Fronius because they were doing stainless and aluminum,
Uh-huh.
and I thought, this you are a robot thing, this collaborative robot thing is perfect because they don't need a full weld cell.
Yeah.
They need something just to weld this one style part, one oval weld. And there's just different sizes, but it's all the same thing. So we quoted it and 2020, they said, "Hey, we'll take this." And we said, "Okay." So we ordered a robot and figured out how to program it, and I already knew Fronius really well. I've been using them since 2003. So yeah, we built this thing. It was highly successful, and we said, "Oh, this is a company." So we
I
went from
gotcha.
building the first one thinking that was it to, "Holy crap, we're gonna build a company around this." So the order came in June 2020, and we were incorporated in marketing the company in September 2020.
You
So
say you had some help with this? You had some partners that you were with, or
through the original company, um, we already had a product development effort. So we were doing product development for various
Oh,
companies,
I
like
see, I
automotive,
gotcha.
lighting. Yeah. So
Yep.
so this wasn't just out of the blue. I'm sitting home trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. It was we were already working on projects under the Hendy Group.
You were doing this contract work. Yeah.
And this was supposed to be a product development project for us and a one off.
Yep.
And we ended up saying, "Holy crap,
We're on to something here.
we're onto something." There's a lot of background, thought processes and some things I wanted to do in the past that I just didn't see a door to open for those. So I always wanted to build standardized solutions in the automation space for customers. But there was nothing where we could really build our own IP and come out of the gate with something that couldn't be copied pretty easily. So if we're successful, someone else is going to copy you. And so, and not to say we're the only ones doing this, but the point is, we have the way we've handled this market is unique, and the way we've addressed our customers' needs is unique. We're a different flavor than some of our competitors, and we're not the best fit for everybody, but
Uh-huh.
we can accomplish everything our competitors can do with our solutions. It's just the space our customers see us in is a little bit different. So we just, we sell a lot of high end stuff. We sell a lot of TIG welding equipment. We sell a lot of external axes with our equipment. We almost look like a custom integrator, but we're really not. So but we're playing in this. We have a lot of SKUs and we have a lot of different options you can tack on. It's very very a la carte what we do
Uh-huh.
with our systems and how we offer those to our customers. And so far, it's been really successful. So, but my background has allowed me to identify who we need to hire to be able to continue to grow this company. I think that's where the value is really at. From the beginning, I was doing a lot of the work, but eventually we hired people that are now, taking over the training and the
Yeah.
development and all the
Yeah.
things that we were doing for much, much smaller team. And So, that's a big thing too is you gotta find people you can trust, people that you know will, augment what you already know or are better at things than you are, and that's the important piece, companies need to remember. So you can't grow a company by yourself, you can't do it all, and
No, you gotta surround yourself with others that have skills that maybe you don't or are better at things that you aren't. And I love what you said early on too. You were like, we knew we were onto something here and we built a company around it. How do you know that? How do you know that at that point in time? Did you think of potential customers? Like we got something here and I can think of 2, 3, 4, 5 different customers that would buy this, or what was the
well,
mentality
no,
there?
kinda going back to what I was saying with I've always wanted to do a standardized product in in the automation space, and traditional automation has always been they've always leaned towards integration side. Like, "Hey, we make this standard product, but
We'll do
oh."
whatever you want. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and if you give and not to say this is bad, but if you give a customer, uh, enough leeway, they'll overcomplicate something.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Right? It's like, look, just simplify this thing. You need to for instance, I say this all the time. It's arc on time. You're making money when you're welding, when we have your arc on
Yep.
is
Yep.
the state is like you're throwing sparks, you're making money, whatever you want to say. So that's what I tell people. It's like, don't
Throwing sparks, you're making money.
right.
Exactly. It's
Don't
that easy. Yeah.
so don't find the hardest thing on your shop floor and say, "Oh, I want to see if you can do this." Like, what does this prove? Right? You have 5, 10, whatever, how many welders you have, 1 or 2 of them are really good. Part of them can do all the processes. The rest of them you just have because you can't afford to fire them.
Yeah.
So so take the easiest parts. So artistic people don't like to do the same thing all the time. And welders are typically artistic. Like they have that mindset of this is an art form.
I've
And
never heard that before, but that is so true. You're right. You're spot every welder I know has, like, made a cool sign for their garage or,
right.
made a yard ornament, whatever it is. Yeah.
Right, it's they're painters, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's not a negative thing at all. It's just it takes a person that, welding is a hand-eye coordination and a result of that. So, if you're going to grab a weld torch, you have an idea of what you want to achieve by that, right? And so when you get done, you look at it and go, "Oh, that was great." And you can have a bad day because 'cause you're having a bad day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
If your welds don't look great, you're upset. I know I was, right? So,
Yeah. That's
some
like
days I
your
felt
stamp. That's your mark. That's Matt's weld, and people come to know it. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right, but also doing the same thing over and over again is just mind numbing,
It's
and
monotonous and it's unhealthy, by the way.
so take your easy parts right. So just take your easy parts, throw them in front of a robot, find and that's our system, we can deliver it, the guys can have it put together in the day, it can be striking an arc in a day. So why not start making money day 2 or even day 1, right?
Right.
We show up for training. Every customer gets on-site training. We show up for training. We say, "Look, what are you trying to achieve today? Like, what are you trying to achieve during this training session? Or do you wanna learn the system first and then get into production?" Or are you just like, "Hey, we gotta get into production, like, as soon as possible."
Like yesterday. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, tell us what you're we can always come back later, right? So,
Yeah.
um, tell us what you wanna do, and if you want certain parts to be running by the end of the day, we'll say, "Yeah, that's not gonna work, like, there's not enough time for that." But
Yeah, right.
let's pick something it's something we can train around.
Mhm.
Let's get you running that day. And so they can be running production as soon as we leave that evening or 2 days or whatever the training session looks like. And so, why not go that direction versus turning this into a science project?
Yeah.
Because first robot, you don't want your first robot to be a science project
Right.
unless you're a conglomerate and you have this new product you're trying to ramp up, you know, um, there's tons of really large companies that started out with an R&D lab. Test out what you're trying to do first. Once you've perfected it, then put it in production. If it's a simple part, there's no R&D lab that's required. You know what the weld process looks like. It takes us, 2 or 3 passes to get a standard fillet weld on carbon steel or stainless or aluminum. Takes a few passes to get that thing ironed out, get a recipe, if you wanna call it a recipe, WPS, whatever you wanna call it. It takes us, a couple passes to get something really dialed in. Part has to be in the same spot every time, or we can search for it if the part, varies a little bit, and you're running parts, right? You're running welds, and if that part goes in a box that goes to a customer or goes on a pallet that goes to a customer because it meets the quality standard you're looking for, you're now making money.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so it's just it's like stepping over a $20 bill to pick up a dollar bill, right? It's like, why are we not looking for the quickest win? And most of our customers get that, but when you're new, really the landscape of choices is just vast. So,
Oh man,
coming in
100%.
yeah.
What about I've seen this time and time again where companies do try to create this science project on their factory floor and they want to have, they've got 50 employees and they want to eliminate 49 of them and they want a robot to touch every single part, and it's a continuous loop, whatever the case may be. And before you know it, they might have it all set up, but their throughput is now gone just tanked, and they still have maintenance, and it's become a disaster. And oh, by the way, they've spent just millions and millions of dollars on this, and they had the 50 people before that they were getting a lot of throughput from, and now they don't have anybody, and you can't hire anybody these days. So they've got this system that doesn't work and needs to be totally rethought of. I mean, I'm sure that's pretty common, right?
I've not experienced that. Uh,
Okay, okay.
and from the beginning, we'd say, "Yeah, whatever would have caused that, don't do that." And so, there's a few things we tell companies. If they have if they have the right mindset, first of all, almost every company that has welding operations has a resource issue with employees. And in fact, I'll say that most companies um, that are handling their market correctly and are watching costs, are their sales activities or marketing activities are scaled appropriately, they all have resource issues in a lot of places, not just welders.
Why do you say that? Why do you think they have resource issues? You're talking labor, like they can't hire anybody.
Yeah, so there's a few reasons why companies purchase robotics. One, it's cultural. Automotive, you're buying robots if you're making parts for automotive. That's just what happens because the volumes are there and it just justifies itself, right?
There's
There
just no you can't yeah, it's kinda like not owning a cell phone these days. Like, you just have to have it.
exactly right. Yeah. So if you're doing volume, robots are an easy conversation. And if you're hiring people that are experienced in that space, their first thing is we're buying 6 robots to make this process repeatable, and we can handle the volume. So it's an instant conversation. But if you have a smaller company where you're doing contract manufacturing, or your volumes are just low, but you're doing and staying in, we can talk about automation from a broader spectrum, but when it comes to welding applications or fabrication, let's say metals industry, um, there everybody's got resource issues. We need machine tending operators. We need machinists, right? We need people to program these machining centers. We need somebody to load and unload this machining center. There's a robot right there. We need someone to weld these parts. There's a robot right there. We have a logistics problem where we need to get components back and forth between all these different ops,
Yeah.
right? There's an AMR conversation there. So
AMR, what's AMR mean?
like a ground vehicle. So a vehicle, an automated ground vehicle,
Oh,
there's
I
different
gotcha.
yeah, there's different names for them. You're instead of using like everything's, the word robot's very ambiguous because a robot can be a little plastic, tube that has 3 chambers of air and it flops around and they call it a robot,
Right,
right?
right, right.
It can be a piece of nichrome wire that does this and flips back
Yeah,
and forth with
yeah,
heat,
right,
and they call
right,
it a
right.
robot, right? Or it could
It could be
be
a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex looking thing that
it's a
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
the yeah, or yeah, so the word is very ambiguous, but from our space, it's at six axis, seventh axis, 7 axis. manipulator that does something that's been programmed to do in some type of repetitive space.
Hey, folks, let's pause the podcast for a second to talk about one of the companies making the Germinate podcast possible. Want to give a huge thanks to GBGI. Here's Mark Adams.
Thanks, Joe. At our shop in Chardon, Ohio, every part we build is made with precision. From the CNC machining to the final inspection, we don't rush because we know your customers can't afford failure. If you're a dealer or OEM who wants reliability built in, give us a look. GBGI, built to spec, built to last. Learn more at gbgiusa.com. GBGI, grow with us.
A exciting partner that we just brought on board. I don't partner with those that I don't believe in. And FEMA is a network that I've been a part of for almost 20 years, over 20 years, actually. And this episode is powered by the Farm Equipment Manufacturers Association. FEMA connects the entire ag equipment ecosystem, not just manufacturers and suppliers, but a wide range of partners who help this industry run, grow, and evolve. In today's world, building farm equipment takes a heck of a lot more than steel, tooling, and production lines. It takes the people and companies who support manufacturers and suppliers behind the scenes, the problem solvers, innovators, creators, integrators, service partners, all you strategic thinkers who help businesses operate smarter, communicate better, and push this industry forward. So whether you build equipment, support the people who build it, or you're a company that wants to plug into the industry in a meaningful way, FEMA is the network to do that. It opens doors. It's where relationships become opportunities, where collaboration creates momentum, and where the future of our industry is being shaped. So if you want to be part of FEMA, reach out to me or reach out to farmequip.org, FARMEQUIP.org, and connect with manufacturers and partners driving agriculture forward. FEMA, where the whole industry connects, grows, and moves together. www.farmequip.org. Why do you think the labor has gone away? And you and I are roughly the same age, and being a welder, being a laborist, being a machinist is pretty popular back in those days, but it's kind of gone away. I don't want to dive into life's philosophies and whether or not college is a scam and all this stuff, but it is an interesting question in my opinion on where is it going and why we are that way. Is it because, do you think, partially of technology, and they kind of people just realize it's coming, or what's your thoughts there?
There are a lot more job titles today than there used to be.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Although on the other side, maybe in the early 1900s, blacksmith was a job ad.
It was a cool job. Yeah,
Right,
back then.
right.
Yeah.
It's not anymore.
No.
Whereas now, software engineer, architecture, architectural engineer,
Social
there
media influencer.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many different jobs,
Yeah.
right? There has been a push away from the trades, and that is part of the problem. Um, and you can call it manufacturing culture. There's all kinds of reasons why people have stayed away from the manufacturing side. There aren't as many button pusher jobs out there, right? And that was a big piece of the past where there was a lot of simple jobs, and we don't have those anymore. And automation has taken that away. However, automation has also offered a lot of opportunities. So when you talk about labor and automation, it's not a one-to-one scale. And especially today, you know, there there are less manufacturing people in the automotive space because they can leverage automation in a lot of places they couldn't before.
Yep.
But when you get down into the custom manufacturing, contract manufacturing, low volume aerospace, automation isn't part of the conversation, not like it would be in automotive. So I would always, and we don't deal with automotive a lot, because, you know, again, from a cultural standpoint, they have their thing, right? They're tooling, fixturing engineers, process
Oh,
engineers,
for sure. Yeah.
this thing, they've automated the automation.
Yeah.
So the
It's an
automation process,
ecosystem. Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
ecosystem, right? So I would say on the automotive side, those conversations have some validity about, getting traded out for automation, but I don't believe that's the case. In fact, I would say the case studies we've seen are several, and that is one, a company that adopts automation for the first time can create the perception of progressiveness, quality improvement, and throughput. So their potential capacity goes up with automation. So from an external standpoint, their customer base is going to see that as a positive. So as a marketing, a public relations um, impact, and we've heard customers say that, hey, 3 days later after the system showed up on the floor, we had companies reaching out saying, hey, we heard you have automation. We want you to quote this job.
Dude, that's really interesting. That's so true that if you do get into automation, you should market it. It is something that you should be proud of and that you should market because the message is, wait a minute, these guys have more capacity now and they can take on more work and they can be efficient and have better quality. No one really talks about that, Matt. That's really interesting.
Every company that buys more automation should, and any type of production equipment to improve quality, improve throughput, they should have a news article. They should do a public, a social media post.
Create a video, whatever. Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think any company out there should that is bringing external customers. Now there's export control, NDA stuff
Yeah,
in
of
place,
course.
right?
Of course.
But the point behind that is if it's product agnostic and it's more um, process driven or capacity driven, then they should talk about it unless they're not looking for more business.
Yeah. I mean, because the reality of it is, if you think about it, if you go back to the automotive example, Ford can make a heck of a lot more F-150s today than they could 10 years ago. And it's not because they probably have more labor, it's because they've been way more efficient in the way they manufacture an F-150 with automation. And, it's just kinda it naturally makes sense. And of course, they can make more today than they did back in whenever Ford started in 1905. That's the point. So, that should be the point of sort of some automation too. We can just be more efficient. We can manufacture more, we can do more.
Right, right. So, the point behind the separation between this automotive space and the non-automotive space, where don't the volume doesn't mandate the automation. The volume is is a variable. The point about the automation is it typically when automation's introduced, you have multiple factors, and I'll just go over them briefly. The first one is the perception of the quality and capacity that you have now presented to your customers. The second piece of that is the ability to take the redundant tasks from the people that don't want to do those redundant tasks, but you don't have a choice. So your turnover is going to drop.
Yep.
There is a cultural impact should be positive, and
Yeah.
typically is positive when you bring automation in. It shows a progressiveness, it changes the landscape of the business and offers, more opportunities for people that when uh, they don't see a change or any type of anything to look forward to as an employee, and suddenly you start bringing automation in, it it gives the employees that are looking for more. It gives them an opportunity to s- to get more, uh, get more out of their company,
Well, and
right?
just to feel prouder of where they are and what they're doing, like, that's a sense of pride when you're like, "Hey, I work at a place that's got this really, cool automation." I think we need to get over culturally the perception of technology is going to replace our jobs. I don't think that's true, and I think the research shows that in certain aspects. I've told many a stories where it actually brings more people on board, but it's the right kind of people, the ones that you want, you know?
That's partially it. The In my experience, companies have been able. So if you have 200,000 square feet and you're trying to produce more product, the only way to do that's automation. But it doesn't mean that you're gonna do it with the same amount of people. It both requires different type of people or more skill sets than the people you have, and it opens up doors for the people you have. So it changes things, but it changes things, I think, in a positive. And I have seen that companies can produce more with the same people, or they need more people because they're producing more or a broader spectrum of components than they were before. So it ends up being a positive from that standpoint because unless again you're an automotive company that doesn't have any automation and you're moving to automation, yeah, that could be a staffing reduction.
It
But
could
when
be,
you're
yeah.
in other spaces, it's typically not a staffing reduction. In fact, it's an improvement. And we've heard companies say, "Hey, Bob, that's 56, is going to retire in a couple years. We got a robot, and he said, I'm not retiring anymore because now he's excited to be there. And he knows he doesn't have to weld this bracket 100 of them a
Super
day every
interesting.
day, right? For the next 4 years. So, because now that stuff goes to automation. So that's kind of that's the
What's the
ultimate.
mundane tasks too that
It is,
we just
right?
talked about? They're boring, they're unhealthy. Nobody likes to do that anyway. So let's get rid of that stuff.
Right.
That doesn't mean the person has to go away. That means they can move on to something less mundane, more complex that could be more efficient for your company anyways.
Right. So there and the way the company handles that has a lot to do with it too. But if they're like, hey, we're bringing automation in, we want to take our current people and give them the opportunity to make more money and to be exposed to new things in the company.
Yeah.
And new things could be a lot of stuff, right? If you buy a robot, right? Suddenly, if you're through, like, let's say if you couldn't quote a job before, and now you can quote that because the volumes were too high to handle, and that happens a lot where companies say we can't do that, we don't have the capacity for it. Well, now it's like, oh, well, now we're doing all these parts. Now we got to improve our powder coat line because now we can't handle all these parts. Oh, wait a minute, we need to expand our building. Oh, well, since we expanded our building, we're going to bring some of this other stuff in house that we were subcontracting, and all this stuff just steamroll, right? So with the right mindset, with the right planning, talking about what we did in the beginning before the podcast started, you need to plan. And if you plan around and if your company doesn't want to grow, that's fine. And if you're trying to sell and you want a posture to sell and buying automation is not the direction you want to go, that's a different conversation. But and good for you that your exit strategy is coming to fruition. But if you're looking to expand your company, you're looking for more opportunities, you want to lower cost, you want better people, all those things from a progressive side and being a company owner, this is how you do it.
I
So,
think that what you said there is important. If your company's maybe push back a little bit. If your company's not looking to grow, maybe the only explanation is what you said. If you're about to sell, then fine. But if you're not looking to grow, I think there's a problem with that, man. Like that's the reason we're all in business. There might be some exceptions to this. One being what you said, which I think was intelligent. Like, hey, you're looking to sell, good for you. You got out. But otherwise, let's go. Let's do it. Let's quit sitting on the sidelines, right?
yeah, and I don't want to turn it to a negative because people, don't yuck other people's yums. I had an old business partner used to say that. One of the few things I got out of that one, but um, yeah, I mean, if that's their thing, there's reasons for it. Sure. I mean, but I always say you're either growing or shrinking,
Yep.
and so pick a side.
Yep.
And so that's and again, there's nothing, when companies are making choices out there, it's not a negative against them if they're not following some of these conversations or not. Well, I'm not growing, so that means I'm doing the wrong things. It's not the way you should look at it. These are just conversations around how the automation can can present opportunities, but there has to be planning around that, and I think that's ultimately how to think about it is you can't just throw automation in and expect it to work. You've got to have a plan around bringing that automation in,
Hmm.
and everybody's going to have a different path. There is no litmus. There's no like template for how this works um, from a from a um, uh, from a general statement, but there are templates on how to make it work, if that makes sense.
No, of course
So
it does.
so, yeah, so I guess I can.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think the problem that maybe I hear, especially in the ag space, is really twofold. Is one, the mentality of we'll just wait. Labor's gonna come back. It always comes back. It's just we're in kind of a weird glut right now because of COVID, and we're coming off of COVID, and now we're in this reset. And number two is the market's gonna come back. It always comes back. That's just what agriculture does. It ebbs and flows. It's up and down. I'm not sure that's not a plan. That's not a plan just waiting for things to happen that happened in the past. I think the plan should be a little bit more formidable than that. Like, wait a minute, let's plan to do this. And then if and when things do happen, fine. That's great. That's just cherries on top. But if they don't, we're still prepared.
Right. Well, and I mean, I was thinking of a couple different industries that's really their motto is like they lay people off when things are slow and they
Yep.
hire people back when things are busy and they don't
Yep.
automate because there's some cultural issues there. There's a lot of things that happen in an industry and you'll find this if you really pay attention, like northern side of Indianapolis, there's a bunch of feeder bowl companies. And it's probably because one person got mad at the owner and he went and started his own feeder bowl company. And then someone got mad at him because they didn't like the way he's running things. So he started another feeder bowl company. The same thing in the RV industry. There's a crapload of RV industry in northern Indiana. And actually, I was in Australia earlier this year, and I was in the same. There was an area there where I was in, and the same thing happened. Right, you had all these RV manufacturers, and they kind of work from the same space, which I think is odd because it's like it's just I don't know. Everybody's pulling from the same pool of
There's
people.
like 0 RVs one day, and then the next day there's like 10 million. They're everywhere,
Right.
right? Yeah.
And if you think about that, if all these RV manufacturers are in the same space, they're they're bringing in the same people. And
Of
they're
course.
bringing in the same concepts, and there's no growth there. Now, I can't say there's no growth because RVs have changed over time, but there's a lot of incestuous, concepts there where it's like, well, you it's hard to grow when someone leaves one company. Why do they leave is a good question, and they go to another company. So did you gain or lose a, the mind trust that you had before, right? Is this a thought leader that's like, well, they won't listen to me over here and I have great ideas, so I'm gonna come over here. Is that why they moved? Or did they move because I didn't like my boss because he made me show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and I didn't and I can't get this up early, so I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna test these guys out. Like, or I don't want to weld all these same parts every day. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna go here because it's different. But then he welds the same parts or she welds the same parts every day there, so eventually he goes to the 3rd place, and then he goes back to the 1st place again.
It's the same playbook. It's the same
Right,
map, and it's
right.
maybe not just RV companies. It kinda happens everywhere, but you're onto something, I think, that it's kind of like, have you heard of this concept called the liquid workforce? I'm gonna unpack it in 2026, but have you heard of it? It's kind of like,
I don't think I
no?
have, yeah.
Well, it's basically like surrounding yourself with people that can execute a task or a project, but it's a different way. My point is, like, the average VP of sales right now, the tenure is like 16 months. I've said this like a million times, but that tells you that people are kinda you're just getting tossed around. It's the same job. It might be a different company, but it's the same job and the same thing, and you're doing the same thing. And a lot of these places, the RV example, are really hard to make a move because they're like, well, the market sucks right now, so we're not going to add automation. We don't have any money. Or when it's really busy, they're like, well, we're not going to add automation now because we're so damn busy. All we need to do is just crank things out. And it's like you get into this glut of everybody's just doing the same job everywhere else instead of go find the Matts of the world that are the professionals that can really they can change the course of that peanut butter glut that you're in. You can change that path. And I think we need to look at that a little bit more, but it's a scary concept and it's not the way we've always done it. And it's not the way my dad or my grandpa or this or it's like, who cares? That's not the world we live in now.
Sounds like exercise. "Oh, I'm too tired. Oh, it's too cold. Oh, I'm too busy."
Right?
So,
There's every
like,
excuse. Yep.
it's but the real question is how important is it to you, right?
Right.
So, just don't make excuses, just say, It's not that important to me," right? Other than trying to convince yourself there's a reason why you're not doing it.
Yeah, that's
Tell
exactly
yourself
it.
you're not doing it because you don't want to or it's not that important, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's like just event to your point, if you're thinking about it, just do it, and it might look a little different. You might not be able to hire Matt to come in your company and be the whole create this giant, to your point, a science project of the manufacturing floor. But that's not what you need anyway right now. You need to fix the problem over here that the mundane task you keep hiring the same it's a different named person, but it's the same person over and over and over and over again. And I'm starting to feel bad for that person because that's a crap job. And it's a horrible way to kind of exist too. And we're better than that. Like you're better than that. I know you can. You should go learn how to be a learn how to do automation and figure that out. And I think it's just more viable for us as people anyways. I don't know. I'm getting kind of a little off task, but it's all relating, hopefully.
Yeah. So there's a term like to do the same thing every time and expect different results is the definition of insanity,
It's
right?
insanity. Yep.
So
Anyway, my point is we were talking about the whole RV thing, and this cycle needs to end and needs to change, or otherwise, we're just going to always have the excuse of let's just wait. Let's just keep waiting. The market will come back. Labor will come back. We're going to be able to hire people. I promise. It's just this generation, or we don't have the right fit, or, we just need to look elsewhere.
well, you made the point though that this is not a welding conversation. This is a everything conversation, right? It isn't just about one industry. It's just not just about one type of job. It's about as a whole, having the concept around the people you hire and the investment in that person. Whether it's a sales manager or whether it's a welder or whether it is a accountant or whatever. If you're seeing something's not working, then you need to look at how you executed that. Why did you bring that person on? How are you treating that person? What is that person doing? Where's the failure coming?
Yeah.
Where the failure is coming from, failure or failures, and try to address that. And so and so really it really isn't like we're picking on any one group or one
Oh, no, no, no.
segment, but those are but yeah, but so to reflect on that, companies that or people are listening to this, this happens in a lot of different spaces, um, and that's something that you just have to self reflect on and figure it out, and let people from the outside that you trust come in and say, "Hey, let's look at that differently. Let's tell me about what happened there." And it's like, "Okay, have you thought about this?" And I always think that's great. And that's why companies need people that have been where they've been as a advisory board to sit down and go, "Hey, this is what's happening." And like, can you tell me what you would have done in that same situation and get there? You don't have to listen to them necessarily and act on it. You need to listen to them though, like listen to their experiences. So it's, I've always found people I thought were complete idiots. There's every so often they say something smart, and like
Yeah.
it is what it is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't
Like,
discount.
wow, that's enlightening. I had no idea that was inside there. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes something happens that they do. It's like whatever, but you can get something out of that, right? And
Well, it's
so
the power of an outside perspective too. A lot of companies sweep things under the rug, and it's time to look under there, because I think we're in this kind of it's a reset in business, in my opinion. It's not a cycle. We're like at this new phase that needs to change and needs to update. And so it's time to look under that rug, and let's look at all the bad. It's okay. All companies have it. And what do we need to fix and what do we need to change, and start small, and then rely on the experts like you and THG to say, "Hey, this is what we suggest." And, I tell this story a lot with everybody scared of AI and radiologists, and they thought radiologists was going to be a thing of the past. Like that job wasn't going to exist because all they do is look at scans all day long. That's not really their job. Their job is to help people, help their patients. Looking at scans is one aspect of it that is automated now, and now there's actually more radiologists in the market than ever before, because there's so much more they can do, so much more work, and so there's so much more need. And it's similar to what you're saying. It's like, no, 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 man, we can make you so efficient that you can add on to your building, and then you can create a whole nother diversified product, whatever, whatever you've been thinking about.
right, right, yeah, no, exactly right. um, so yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. It's that's exactly right. Just find people you trust, different perspectives, and I think you'll come out ahead.
Have a plan, and make sure that that plan is, yeah. And you said we've alluded to this, but before we started talking, you were like, "No, no, no, 2026 is gonna be different. We're gonna have a plan," right? What'd you say? What'd you say? Fail to plan to fail? Something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah,
That's not my
yeah.
saying. It's just, but it makes a lot of sense, and I think people are afraid of planning, and then if they fail, they'll disappoint themselves. And I don't think you should look at it that way. I think you should look at it as okay, we didn't get where we wanted, but where we are at is closer to what we wanted than if we had not planned at all.
Yeah.
And or you exceed it. And typically we find that our goals for the next year and the year after and the year after are pretty conservative, and that's okay. We typically exceed what we're trying to achieve the next year. So, but it's okay to be conservative. If you're afraid of trying to shoot too far, and try to achieve too much in too small of a space, start out with something and then go, well, you know what, that didn't work out. But actually we exceeded what we expected to do, or we didn't. Let's revise our plan. And if you record that and look back at, the past and what you thought you were going to do and what actually happened, it,
Yeah.
you're going to be better off. And historicals are huge, for and under the THG Automation badge, we don't have a lot of historicals, right? We're a fairly young company, but we have enough that we're getting really good at our forecasting and our planning. And it also takes previous experience, but you kind of take all those pieces and you put them together and create a picture out of it. And then you shoot for that. You set a goal and you shoot for that. And at least if you had a goal, you can't blame. We don't want to blame the market. You can say, yeah, we would have achieved more money if it wasn't for tariffs. We would have, if it wasn't for this or that, we could have done better here and there. Well, that's okay, but we still got where we wanted to be. And it's
Yeah.
because we made adjustments early on to say, all right, this is going to affect this way. So now let's shift and let's move in a different direction. Let's make different adjustments to that plan, and then let's execute on that. But we didn't really change where we wanted to be in the end. We just changed how we got there. And so that's the whole point. If you have a focal point, you may have to, if you're running down the road or driving down the road to get to a destination, and there's a detour. Well, yeah, the way you were going to get there got changed a little bit, but you still got there. And that's
Yeah.
where everybody needs to be in their business.
Dude, that's such good advice. I love it, man. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Tell everybody how to get in touch with THE Automation, with you, how to find you. I'm gonna put it in the show notes as well, but yeah, go ahead. How do you get in touch with you? And go ahead.
THGautomation.com, Tom, Harry, George. And you can email us you can email just Matt at, or you can email sales at, or just go on the website and fill out the form, and or call the phone number, and we're here for any questions or anything someone needs from us to help them in their automation space.
Very good. Well, Matt Henley, THG Automation. Look those guys up in the show notes. We'll have them, and you'll find them online. They're doing great work, and they're just good people that you could trust, and you can really work with and get behind. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Joe.
Reach driven leaders with the Germinate podcast. Sponsor our show to align your brand with actionable insights and purposeful growth. Contact us today at embosales.com/podcast. That's www.embosales.com/podcast to partner and inspire our growing audience of professionals. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into the Germinate podcast. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others in the industry. And join me next time as we continue to explore the innovations and strategies shaping the future of agriculture and business. Until then, keep growing, keep innovating, and keep germinating your success.